Is upright. Your tray table is put away and all carry-on items stowed. Once airborne, we'll be back with more details about our flight.
After Napoleon lost the Battle of Waterloo, it was the Prussians.
So it's my orientation day. I have to be there at 9. It's an hour away. It's currently 7:15 a.m. I've looked better. I felt better. Here we are. Hopefully I'll have time to get some breakfast once I get to the area. We'll see. So I just finished orientation and I got to meet my whatever, you know what I mean. And she's really cool. She's really cool. She pulled a loose waffle out of her bag and asked me if I wanted any. I'm feeling a lot better about the program. I was nervous that I didn't receive my schedule until a few days ago, but turns out I got mine earlier than a lot of other people did. And then the other problem is that the schedule, it's quite a commute from where I'm living to where I'm going every day to work. I realized that I would be there 4 days a week, which is not, it's less than most people, but for only working 12 hours a week and I have an hour break in between each class, I'm going to be there a lot. And I have a friend who pretty much has all of their 12 hours fit into 2 days with a giant lunch break in the middle. And that sounds way better to me. So I was kind of nervous to ask her if that was cool, but I'm like, hey, just so you know, if it's at all possible to, take less time in between each class, so I can, have more time to travel or do other things, that'd be awesome. If not, no worries, we'll make it work. And she was like, oh yeah, like, let's figure it out. So. Hello, how's it going? It's been a while. I've now been in France for about a month. Yep, it's been a hot second. I will be here from now until about May, April-ish. I am doing a program called TAPIF, which stands for Teaching Assistant Program in France. Essentially, I am going to be an assistant teacher in a French school here in France. That's redundant. So for this program, they have given me a visa to be here, obviously. On this visa, I can work about 12 hours a week, which sounds ideal, right? That's not very long, and if it can support me being here, then that's pretty cool. The thing about that is I can only legally work 12 hours a week, and I'm here in Paris. So they pay me for 12 hours a week. Before taxes get taken out of my monthly salary, they pay me about 1,000 euros a month, which isn't a lot. It actually does come to a lot when you do the math, and 12 hours a week, it comes down to about little more than twice the minimum wage here. But 1,000 a month, and then after taxes, it's closer to 800 euros a month. So you try finding housing in Paris that is furnished for 400 euros a month, maybe. You try it. I dare you. I promise it will be the bane of your existence. The other thing about it is that I'm not technically stationed in Paris. I'm stationed about an hour and a half to the east. That's not true. It's about like 45 minutes by car, but I don't have a car, so I have to rely on public transportation, which pretty much doubles that time. So 3-hour round trip every day makes 12 hours a lot less appetizing. And you know, you might say, well, if the commute is an hour and a half and you can't find any housing in the most expensive city in the country, why did you choose to live in the most expensive city in the country? That's a really good question. The thing is that I have friends here and I have family here, and I'm kind of squatting with the family right now. I'm lucky enough to have that absolute privilege. While this isn't a vacation, I would like to be a young person again in this city. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to rush for the train promptly at 12:30 p.m. on a Friday night to get home, if I can help that. I would rather be stationed in the city, and even though it does take up a lot of my time, you know, if I can situate myself a little better when I find an apartment finally, it can take as little as like 40 minutes, which is doable for me, especially considering what I am currently doing. So long story short, I'm picky and I want things the way that I want, and I know beggars can't be choosers, but I'm a choosy beggar, maybe. So yeah. So essentially with this program, you know, it's kind of tough to explain because it varies. It depends on where you're assigned, who you're assigned with, what their expectations are of your assistantship here, if that's a word. So apparently some people will just have you sit in the back of class and wait until there's a question, while others will expect you to plan full lessons where you are essentially the teacher and you are in charge of a group of kids, and like you have to plan that yourself. And you don't know what you're gonna get until you are given the contact information of your tutor, tutrice, as it's called, but like, you know, mentor, I guess that's the English equivalent. So you never know what you're gonna get is the thing. So it's funny, when I was doing research into this program, I kept getting a lot of different answers as to what I could expect naturally, as I have just told you, and it makes it a lot more difficult to sign on to it, at least for me. I'm speaking on a personal experience. And I have to say there are some drawbacks to this program. I've done 2 weeks. It's my 3rd week doing this. I have given lessons. I have prepared things. We're talking about Halloween, which is why I'm dressed so spooky. Wednesday Addams over here. So with TAPIF, what do they give you? They give you your visa. Well, they don't give you your visa. You have to do the steps. They sponsor your visa. So I will say, if you aren't like a self-starter, like reasonably organized kind of person, I would say that TAPIF is probably not for you. Really what they do is they sponsor your visa, they station you wherever. Usually it's not going to be your first or second or sometimes even third pick in the country of France. And that's just where you're set, you know what I mean? You can't disagree with them. Or if you decide that that's not right for you or you want to be placed somewhere else, they consider that the termination, like you terminating the contract. Like there's no plan B, there's no option 2. And that is a little rigid for me, but like whatever. It worked out well for me, worked out well for most of my friends. The other thing is they don't help you open a bank account, which is, I mean, like, you can go to my other video, it's a whole mess and a half. Not super ideal. It's just like you really never know what you're gonna get, and it's hard to make any sort of plans before you actually get here because, you know, theoretically you don't have a French bank account yet, you don't have a French phone number, you don't have any of these things that will help you to be taken seriously in finding a housing. or really anything. So that's all on you, I have to say. And I don't want to alarm you, but you know, I've been here almost a month. Myself and most everyone I know in this program still have yet to find proper housing in Paris. The other thing I will say, you can be placed in one or more of the 3 levels of education here, and that's essentially like elementary school, middle school, and high school. I got placed in the middle school, and so I got placed in a middle school, and at first I was devastated. I don't know if you've ever met a middle schooler or like met a 13-year-old. They're not the kindest bunch. I have to say I have experiences with middle schoolers that still haunt me in my sleep, and especially French. Like when I was here doing my studies, I would have to, like the route I would take to get to my university, I would have to pass a French high school, admittedly. And all these kids, they were tall and they were trendy and they would stand outside and they would smoke their cigarettes. And I remember thinking, wow, these like literal 15 and 16-year-olds are cooler than I'll ever be. And that was a revelation. And I was certain that it would be worse with middle schoolers because like, yeah, but actually it's been incredible. These kids are so enthusiastic. They have so many questions. They, for the most part, you know, their English levels aren't incredible, which makes things difficult because I really have to monitor my own language, like even the way I'm speaking to you, which I consider to be, I don't want to call it simplistic, but I'm not using slang or I'm not using really big words, but this wouldn't go. I really have to slow myself down, and that's part of the job. That's what you can expect. But it's just been an interesting linguistic exercise because, you know, when I came here last year and I met all these international friends, most of whom English was their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th language, they didn't understand when you said, oh yeah, I'm down to do that. They didn't really understand that, or really any of the like billion idiomatic phrases that we use to express ourselves in English, that we don't even, like we use it without thinking. And I think most languages have these things. Don't mean to go off on a tangent, but all that to say, I have to really plan the way that I speak. And that has been a really cool, interesting practice for me. So in terms of settling into life in France, one thing that caught me off guard is how many breaks they have. Okay, I know the cliche in the United States is that the French don't work, and that is not true. The difference is that in America, if you have a high-powered job, you can expect to work 60 hours a week, where in France, that's like, like that's not gonna happen here. The work week is 32 hours, and you have like, I think most people have 40 plus days of paid time off a year. As you can imagine, that's a bit startling when you look into it. The other thing is with this program, you have 2 weeks off every 6 weeks. That's incredible. Like, yeah, okay, you don't get paid that much. You only work 12 hours, and that's a lot of time to spend money that you aren't making. But if it's possible for you to come to this program with some savings, with the intention of growing your worldview and also, you know, your understanding of education and the way that different administrations work, then this could be the perfect program for you. But, you know, you are essentially also living on a undergraduate freshman budget. 800 euros a month is, I mean, look, I will die on this hill that France, in most every aspect, is much cheaper than the US. Like, having lived in Chicago for 5 years, like, if you wanted to buy yourself a nice sandwich that came with like a side or a drink maybe, that would cost you $13 to $16, something like that, I don't know. Here, You go to a boulangerie, you get a $5 sandwich with fresh bread, fresh ingredients like lettuce and tomatoes and meats and whatever else you can think of. A coffee is literally €2, sometimes less, depending on where you go. A croissant is like less than €2. All that to say, I digress again. All that to say, France, or like Europe and Paris specifically, doesn't have to be the expensive thing that you think it is. Like, I paid $400 to get from Ohio to Paris. And yeah, I had a layover. They have things like they have Aldi's, they have like really whatever you can think of. You can get breakfast for like a full breakfast for like €5. All that's to say is you can live cheaply here and still have an authentic, incredible experience. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to spend all your money just to experience Paris. You can experience it just as well. I mean, you might not be getting like caviar and like foie gras or whatever, but you can definitely do it on a student's budget. I will say I just spent like 5 whole minutes talking about how I can't find housing in my budget, and that's true, but that's because really they prefer French people. Hello everybody, it is editing me here really quickly just to say on that note, they prefer French people because they don't run on the credit system here. So if you have like a guarantor or like a co-signer, that's really the only way that they know that they can get the rent that you both agreed to. So it's not that they need you to be French, it's that they need you to have proper French documents, and French people always have them. It is much harder for other people to get them. So that's what I mean. It's not that they require you to be of French nationality. That's not it. So I just wanted to clear that up. So having given the overview of this program, I will say it has its pros and cons, like every program does. It allows you to live in this beautiful country. You probably won't get placed in the Paris region, especially if you ask for it, which is weird. But even so, there are other stunning parts of this country to explore, and you have so much time off that you can, if Paris is what calls you, then you can come here on the weekends, you can come here on your breaks. You have 3 2-week breaks in the course of like 6 months. Like, that's insane. So you're probably curious about my specific experiences at this school in France, and I have to say, again, it's out in the countryside. It's like a 6,000 person village. There's nothing going on out there. I have a team of, I have my mentor who is awesome and I love her. But anyways, my experience at this school specifically, I have my mentor, I have 2 other teachers, all of whom speak English fantastically. I know that it is a bit widely known that there are many English teachers or many teachers of different languages that don't really speak those languages, especially in the elementary level. So you will have to be aware of that if you decide to do this program. But no, I've had nothing but positive experience so far. Sometimes it can be difficult to engage the kids the way that I want them to be engaged, but that's more of a reflection on me and my plans than it is of these children, right? And I will say it's mandated that the first 2 weeks of the program are strictly observational, so they sat me in the back of the class for the most part just to sit and watch, and that was so boring, and I'm just like ready to get started. They did introduce me, they did pretty much usher me to the front of the room, and they said, "This is our American, ask her whatever you want." That, you know, that happened at least once every class, so 12 times essentially. And some of the questions that they had were like, I mean, I guess I don't really remember how I was as a middle schooler, but some of these questions, man, I don't know. They were questions like, Do you like pickles? And do you prefer Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts? Also surprising that they know what either one of those are, considering they don't exist here. One kid asked me what kind of plane I flew here on, and I wasn't sure I understood her, but she said, you know, Boeing, Airbus, and I'm like, it was a Boeing. She wanted to know all about like my travel itinerary, and it was just like, it was so funny. So that's been kind of a brief overview of my life in the last few weeks. If you have any questions about this program specifically, please don't hesitate to leave a comment. If you have any questions for me, settling in or what have you, let me know. Anyways, this has been an absolute blast, and I hope this gave you a better insight on things. Je vous aime, bisous.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.